Hello,
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
good afternoon to you.
Sir, another 5 minutes will wait, sir.
Yeah.
Can we start, sir?
Why not?
Maybe people will join.
Sure.
But I'll just introduce our bio. Welcome, everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Bangalore Institute of Technology for today's webinar on planning and executing of IEEE humanitarian project. Myself, Dr. Jalaja, IEEE BIT branch counselor and IEEE CASH chair elect Bangalore chapter, will be your host. First, I would like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Bijoy Anthony Joshi, for its valuable time. So, our principal is not joined. Sorry for that inconvenience. It gives me a warm welcome for everyone present in the interest of this webinar. Now, I would like to introduce our today's speaker. Dr. Anthony Joshi is Associate Professor at the Department of Computer Science in Cochin University of Science and Technology. He has received his BTech from School of Engineering, Research, and his MS from State University of New York. He received his PhD from Virginia Tech in 2011 and worked at Intel Corporation in California for a few years before joining academia. He has received Early Career Research Award from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India in 2016. He is a principal investigator to multiple funded projects from DST, IEEE, CII. His research team focuses on the various topics such as embedded systems, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, virtualization, machine learning, video and image processing, etc. He is a senior member of IEEE. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Let me share my screen too. Please let me know when it's visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, we'll go full screen for a bit and later I'll have to show you some documents. Okay. So the goal of this talk is really about, how you can plan, propose, and, once awarded, execute IEEE humanitarian projects, right? I myself, Dr. Bijoy Jose, I'm a computer science associate professor in Cochin University of Science and Technology. I'm, IEEE side, I would say the most relevant thing for humanitarian would be that I am a member of Region 10 HTA committee. Region 10 is really code name for Asia Pacific in IEEE when you think of geography. So, within that there is India Council, and within that there is different sections. I am part of Kerala section. You are part of Bangalore section. Okay. So let me get into, I think I was already introduced, so let's leave the out of IEEE part. In IEEE, I've been a volunteer from Kerala section. I'm a member of Art and HTA committee, and I got a grant called Techno Unnati project, which I proposed in 2019. And that project was inaugurated this month. The first phase was inaugurated just before COVID, and post COVID, we had the final inauguration. It's supposed to be a 1-year project, but it got delayed. Uh, I got a couple of awards from Kerala section, and later I got the R10 HTA award for this particular project. So the goal here, I'll be giving you an overview in terms of how you can do something similar, right? I would still advise starting on a site project, starting on a HAC regular, assistance project of $1,000, $500, and so on. And after you build some credibility in terms of, okay, how do you execute such a small project? Then you should think about, okay, how I can write a bigger proposal, right? And reference is my experience during this sponsored project. And there is a recent COVID-19 pandemic call that happened a few months back. So I was a reviewer also. So, I was an applicant and I was a reviewer. So, trying to give you my experience there. So part one is writing the proposal for IEEE and how to implement that. Second, it's really, it is guidelines for a particular special call. I will not focus much on that. Part three is how do you implement the project. I think the part one we'll have a little bit, and part three will go in detail, right? Followed by any Q&A. Shall I move on? Starting point, right? So how do you get into doing this, right? The problem is everyone starts with the bullet number one. There is a call for proposals, issued by somebody. Then we start thinking, okay, there is somebody is offering $500, $1,000. How will we get it, right? So the problem with that thinking is it is all about getting the money and rather than doing a project. Sometimes you don't need a lot of money to do a project. If it's a Ramadan, like, you're taking a broom and cleaning surroundings, right? That is a humanitarian project that requires zero funding, right? You can use the broom from your home and do the same thing, right? So it becomes an IEEE project when you put this across as a proposal towards it, right? Who are the funding agencies? IEEE HAC is the major funder. Then IEEE R10, educational activities. All those people will time to time come up with, something humanitarian oriented, right? But IEEE HAC and IEEE R10 HTA, those are two organizations which has annual call for projects, right? Right now there is one going where Antenna Propagation Society and HAC are collaborating. I think it's $1,000 per project, right? So you can make a prototype and deploy it somewhere, right? So similarly, calls keep happening. So verify whether your requirements match your need, right? Don't put a proposal for biology in a computer science call for papers, right? Nobody should do that, right? So similarly, when you get an idea, find something that matches it. Or if you have a call for proposals which is outside that, don't submit the proposal just because that is the only source of funding. So verify that your requirements match the need. Second, assemble the right team, right? So assemble the right team, right? Why is it important? Most of the projects are team projects, and make sure you guys are all on board of the idea even before this money came in, right? Only when the money comes in, people have, sometimes all the issues starts happening, right? So assemble the team for the project, assemble a team for having the idea irrespective of the money and start doing some groundwork. Then apply for the project, and once the money comes, you are all on board on what is the idea. Otherwise, there is issues in terms of, which direction the project should go. So now here onwards, I'll stop um, PowerPoint only, and I'll always show what happened during my case, right? So this is a call for proposals that came for June 29. That is how I got. So HAC has its annual call for proposals. Budget is 20,000 to 60,000. So it's a huge one, right? I applied for 36,000 because, um, you read this line. Proposals requesting larger budget, 40,000, will be considered on a case by cases based on progress achieved in related activities, right? So if you apply for 40,000 or more, your scrutiny will be tougher. So I thought, okay, let me be satisfied with 36,000. Right? Probably that's one of the reasons I got it. My project goal was that, my project goal was that I have a school. 2018 was a big flood year in Kerala. Okay. It was unprecedented floods. It has not happened like that for 30, 40 years, right? So you see the two pictures of the school, right? Right now you see that, okay, there is water. But, believe me that this whole roof was underwater during the floods, right? So you have to really go via helicopter to see what is happening, right? This new building was there standing, but otherwise this school was underneath water because you see the road here after the school. After that, there is one stretch of land, a little bit like one shop or something is there. Behind that is the River Periyar, which is the biggest river in our state, right? And once it floods, it will always do this. So when we did the renovation, we ensured all our new equipment are in the top floor of this building. Okay, so that's my story. So this is aftermath of the floods. There is a lot of accumulated dirt inside classrooms. All the electronic physics labs, everything is damaged. This is the state of the library. All the books were on one side. The water had taken there, and there is a huge cleaning exercise that was required. Right, our department, right? CUSAT is short for Cochin University of Science and Technology. And as part of IEEE Kochi subsection, which is part of the Kerala section, we have been helping Kottamassery school. It is Professor Anandan who's shown here, and Mr. Russell, who were visiting school usually. This is actually after the floods. They were, taking whatever is remaining and keeping it in one room, right? So this is the school officials, right? So we were doing some sponsoring some students for the camp. We'll go teach some basic electronics. Interested students will do some robotics stuff, right? So you are helping in some way. Another important part when you are applying for um, a grant is that you need to really give proof for all these problems, right? So I got in letterhead of the school from the principal, Usha Manat, that this school has been, heavily affected, and we need to ensure that, the school academic year can start again where there is labs facility available, right? Science lab, computer lab, all those things are available, right? So there is a list that is presented. So it brings credibility to your, it is not like you telling that there is such a problem. It is a government agency verifying that, with the seal, sign, everything, saying that, this is a real problem, right? That gives some credibility. And um, just think about this, right? If you have ever worked in a government institution, the capital is one of the biggest problems, right? You never get, okay, huge sum of money one time and do something, right? You'll get, okay, some salary, you'll get some maintenance, right? You get small amounts. But here the issue was that the capital infrastructure, right? All the facilities have been gone. There is employees to maintain the computer lab, but there is no computer lab. Whereas from IEEE side, they have the opposite problem. They are willing to contribute to building something, but they cannot take responsibility of maintaining the computer lab, right? So it was a perfect fit in that way. Moving on, have the right partner. So I am part of Rotary. There is CII, Young Indians, different organizations which are willing to help. And incidentally, the school had a blind student center, right? It is for disabled, or right, I think the right terminology is differently abled, right? It is not just people who are blind or visually challenged. It is also people with some physical disabilities, right? So Chakshumati is an organization which is helping students to read, blind students to read, people who have some learning difficulties and things like that, right? So I tied up with all these people. I got some promise letters in terms of they'll do something. If we get the grant, they'll partner and help out. Having the right organization. I am fortunate to be part of IEEE Kerala section. So you see this tweet here. So this is United Nations tweet saying important message from Chief Minister's Office of Kerala, IT mission, and IEEE Kerala section that flood relief visit Kerala rescue.in. So why is UN tweeting about Chief Minister? Of course, Chief Minister is the right person to give information during a flood. Right? This is August 2018 during the flood. Why is IEEE Kerala section in a UN tweet? That is because this website was built by IEEE volunteers in a matter of 24 hours. Right, so we got together, I think Samir Rasam, right, then Kerala section chair, and Shabiri Nath, right, the student activities chair, pulled in some students. They made this website, and that was used for asking for help, contributing help, marking in a map where you are registering as a volunteer, all those things. So putting this tweet in the proposal gives my proposal a lot of credibility, because IEEE Kerala section is a very experienced volunteer, right? We have credibility even with the Chief Minister's office, right? The proposal that I applied for was to be evaluated using UN sustainable goals. But then I am even putting UN's tweet saying IEEE Kerala section is doing a great job, right? So all that builds credibility, right? I wrote a note about the flood activities in our section, submitted proofs, got a letter from PTA president, principal, advisors, um, eventually built up the proposal. So you can see the proposal here. Primary applicant Bijoy, $35,000. The tweet here, Kerala Rescue, Stand with Kerala, all that. How will I do that? What is the location? What is this current state of affairs? Right? All that has been detailed. Right? So this, how does it impact the community? How will I put it in practice? What will I build? I'll build a smart class, computer lab, library, physics lab, all that. Right? Who is the advisor? I think Sadish Babu sir has been part of HSC board, right? So he'll be the main guy. Samir sir, who's part of Kerala section here. Excuse me. I think you need to mute. Yeah. So all that, the support letters from people who will give funding and so on, right? So that is giving a idea about what is the proposal. Ma'am, can you mute that person?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead.
Okay, right. Another part is, when I say I'm part of doing some volunteering, you can cite any volunteering you have done. So this is something as part of Cochin University and IMA, right? I hope you know Indian Medical Association, right? So there is a air pollution stopping effort that we had done, right? So this is a program. So right, we had volunteered, we had installed some, air pollution monitors. This is at the collector's office, right? So such efforts that we have done were documented. Then we asked for $35,000. This was the breakup. You have to put the right budget, right? Once you get awarded, otherwise you'll be in trouble. And this is what happened. These are on 2019. These were the projects approved, right? Uganda, Nigeria, all the way here, and India had the highest funding, I think, right? $35,000 for the project. I said Techno Unnati, revival of a flood affected Kerala school through technology, right? And then they send you an award letter and say that you have to sign for it, and I accept the terms, right? I'll submit reports, I'll do this, and so on, right? Okay. Let me move on. So second is applying for a call. I am taking a particular call for proposals, but I think this is not that relevant for you because this was a call for proposal a couple of months back. But there was a call for proposal from Asia Pacific and HAC where they were giving $500 if you do some project related to COVID. Right? There was a place where you can find the instructions. It is similar to what I mentioned, right? You have to find a organization like Kerala section that you are part of to be the applicant. It should, when it's a COVID proposal, don't send non-COVID projects there, right? So, all those things. Don't sell anything where you are asking for salary or money compensation for work, right? Don't put any proposals which are commercial in nature. Don't put proposals which are research in nature, right? A humanitarian project is none of those things, right? Of course, you can do research to, build technology which will help humanitarian cause. But when IEEE is giving something, they are looking at finishing it in the same financial year, right? Don't use anything which requires animal human testing. Don't use devices which are not having approvals. Follow IEEE non-profit guidelines, right? Since this was COVID time, they had also instructions saying don't have in-person meetings, right? Do it virtually in different places. Eventually there were six sections to be filled and you could apply, right? So this is how a typical one looks like. So you looked at my HAC call, you looked at HTA's call also. Those are the two major funding agencies. Okay. Any questions so far? I think I'm sort of halfway.
Any question from the participant? Sir, in your case, you are taken the Kerala section that water flood.
Yeah.
So, can you give some other examples so that we can apply for HAC?
Yeah. So let me take that award letter, right? So we had 8 projects funded that year. UCO, Connect, Collaborate. So something to do with collaboration software in Indonesia, sign language based education through augmented reality, right? Bolivia, improving health of rural residents through technology, right? Guatemala, using ICT for improving quality education. Argentina, recycling water in fish farm using solar pumps. Nigeria, establishment of skill up technology hub in Nigeria. Uganda, harnessing uptake and utilization of agro based mobile among farmers, right? So all these are examples.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so if it's a general HAC call, you can apply for anything that is humanitarian with technology, right? So don't ask for a funding saying, okay, there is a children's home and they need food, right? That is not really an IEEE HAC thing, right? Let's say that particular uh, children's home has a water heater or some kind, and if you can install a solar water heater and reduce their current bill, that is a humanitarian project for its IEEE, right? It is not just donation. They are looking at how you can use technology to solve problems. So with that, let me go to the final part of the thing, right? How do you implement a project, right? Make an implementation team. So this is me sitting with the PTA president and the teachers and the principal. This is one of the senior IEEE volunteers. You can see her here also. This is the senior leaders in IEEE Kerala section. This man is part of HAC board also. He was a part of tsunami relief. He along with his family traveled to the tsunami affected Nagapattinam area, and he installed radio communicators because there was no mobile towers there. So there is no means of making a phone call. There is no postal service. There is nothing, right? So he installed several radio, ham radio sort of centers, so that there is a communication network at different places, right? This is something an electronics engineer can do, right? He's the president of a software company called Innam, multi-hundred people, but he's a very humanitarian, highly skilled volunteer, past chair of Kerala section. So follow your organization rules on accounting, right? Minute all the activities, send purchase orders, right? So I'll give you an example of how I do things. Obviously, it helped that I was a government servant, so I knew how do you write a proceedings when you do a purchase, right? Some of this much has been, we had a meeting with the PTA and decided that this is required. We got quotations from these places. The lowest quotation was from these people. We feel the spec is okay. We decided to purchase it, right? Another interactive LED screen was purchased for the library, right? Myself, the headmistress and the PTA president have signed that this is okay, right? And then you issue a supply order to the vendor saying, hey, I am the grantee of this project. We have decided using the minutes that we will purchase it from you. Here is your things. Here are the terms. This is what you need to supply, right? So do all these things, properly, so that there is no questions later about how the product was spent, right? So you can see the accounts for each of the computer lab, science lab, all those things. Settle accounts and submit the report. I'm in the phase of doing that. My inauguration was in November. So this is the first phase. We had done inauguration of science lab, right? This is a science lab because we focus on science lab because in 2019 there is a batch graduating and they have no science instruments in the school for the high school students to pass, right? You have to learn something and do the exam, right? So if you don't have any instruments, how do you conduct this? It's a Times of India article about flood hit government school is getting a lab, right? So later we went ahead and installed the computer lab also. This was Samir Asam, the then Kerala section chair, doing the inauguration. I mentioned there is a blind student center. So this is Chakshumadi doing the training, you have some students. So this whole facility was underwater and was unused. And when we visited the site, it was used, after the water went away, it was being used as a godown for cement, because it is in such a bad shape, it can be used only for storage, right? So we cleaned it up, we got it done. So this is last month. So you have IEEE India section, India Council Chair, Suresh Nair. He's from Kerala section. I think it's the second Kerala to be India Chair. Inaugurating the blind center. You can see a few people who are using the facility. We had a training session on, instead of going braille, you can put any book here. It's called Kibo, right? So it has a camera. It will understand any book, right? Here the book is not present. He is just feeling the buttons and things like that, the student. So once you put a book here, this camera will read it, convert it into text, and then the laptop will convert it into speech. Okay. So the problem with Braille is that only Braille books they can read, right? If a new book comes, who knows when it will become a Braille book, right? But if you have this facility, you can read any book, right? It can read multiple languages also. So this is the library. We did not do a lot in the library because there were other organizations who were supplying books. This is the computer lab. This is Vice Chancellor of Cochin University, who I brought as chief guest for this. Okay, I think that is done. So you probably got an idea in terms of how do you apply for a project. What is the formality once you get it? How do you implement a project, and what happens at the end, right? So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer you.
Any question from the participant? You can unmute and you can ask. So now they are called for the HAC proposal, sir. I think November 15th is it open? Only that is for COVID or is it general, sir?
That one was over, but there is a APS antenna propagation HAC. Let me just find that. Right. So there is so there are different societies under IEEE, right? So Antenna Propagation Society is one among them. Of course, you have to become a member, but you can do that easily. Awards up to $3,000 for a humanitarian project which uses RF. Right. So it will have its own, it starts from November 15th till Jan 15th. Anytime you can do that. Right. You can read the terms, how do you assess the project? Right. How do you apply? You can, click on the link and submit the project there. Right.
Okay, this is different than HAC or is a collaboration
So
with
this is
antenna?
collaboration.
Is it
APS.
related to this antenna propagation only we have to put it, sir?
You'll have to read the detailed rules. So I think, that requires you to go through the proposal and understand a bit,
Okay.
right? So they have their own rules, but probably they'll ask something, but when you say RF, it can be mobile,
Hmm.
right? It can be antenna, it can be, anything related to communication, right? So,
Okay. So whatever you have received the fund that is for Kerala section that flooded the thing. So
yeah.
when they are called, sir, for that kind of projects, when they used to call?
Let me just see. So this was the one that I did. Let me see. Submission deadline is Jan 21st, right? So it's around December time frame.
Okay. Maybe this
Right?
month
So
we
during
can
the summer.
expect this.
Yeah, maybe sometime in December they'll call, and the deadline will be in January.
Every year they used to call, sir, this one?
Yes.
Every year. Okay.
Just that it is, very tough, right? Because
Yeah.
you saw worldwide 8 projects got approved.
Yes, sir, yes, yes.
Right. So that's why I was saying it is always good to apply for this regularly. You'll get HTA calls for $500, $100,000. It is good to implement one of them. I happen to be lucky,
Okay.
right? When I contacted Sadish Babu sir saying, I want to apply, he was like, well, it's very competitive. You have one project per country which might get approved. Not even that, because only 8 projects across the world, right? But they generally give it to countries which are short on money, right? So but then I was lucky, because we lucky in the sense that we had a terrible flood and we had done excellent work,
Okay.
with respect to the Kerala Rescue website, and we had a previous history with the school. We did not start helping the school because we were going for this project. We
Okay.
were helping the school before the flood itself,
Okay.
right? So I think when you look from a proposal point of view, it all aligned properly.
So other than that, HAC, when they used to call, sir, that the normal funding like
I
500.
showed you. I showed you. So you saw the main call happens in Jan. There
Yeah.
was R10 COVID call in June.
Mm.
There is right now APS call happening, right? So similarly, it is a every year, based. We can't predict the time, right? We
Okay.
just keep looking at IEEE HAC website. It will be there, right? So hac.ieee.org.
It varies, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So you keep looking at it. There will be funding opportunities coming. So right now, COVID one got over, APS one is going on.
I saw that, sir. I saw.
Yeah. Similarly, you can go look at it and find a good one.
Okay. Thank you. So any question from the participant? Unmute yourself and you can ask.
Everyone's shy. There are no bad questions.
No, can you display the slide of sample project? Something somebody is asking. So,
Okay, let me see
slide
the question
sample
in the chat.
projects
Oh, okay.
in the chat window. Then.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was in the slide itself. So you can see here, I assume. These are the sample product in 2019 that product.
Any other question from other than this? So still that project is going on, sir? Is it finished?
It is finished. It was inaugurated in November. So we are looking at, submitting the final report.
So is it possible to share an example of yours proposal already completed so that we can
I did
have?
not send the document, but I'll show you, what is inside it. Right. So every time the criteria will be different. So it will
Yeah,
not
yeah,
be
that's
that
all.
useful also. Right. But I would say what is unique about so let's say there has to be a summary, right? So summary is quite standard, right? You write an abstract. What is the need addressed? There is nothing special that I've written here. What is the overall project objectives? Like you have to list, I want to have a smart class, I want to have a science lab, I want to have library, right? Um, I think the key thing here in location duration, you can't do much, right? It is near Aluva in Kerala. It is 8 months, I'm suggesting. Right? Is it a new or a continuous? It is really questions and answers. What I focused on was to show that, we have been working on this irrespective of you are paying us money or not.
Okay.
Right? We are doing the volunteering to help the school, right? You can come on board if you want, right? So how do you ensure project will work, right? So we have done eScientia, which is a project in QSAT, right? So I think you can see. So this is another project we have done, not this whole thing. Okay. It's one of the signatures. So you see this room where students are sitting and they're, like Bangalore, you have that science museum, right? So similarly, they can come and solve a problem in a rocket launching simulator, right? So in the screen, they'll see this going and, they'll say there is a communication problem. If you fix that, it will work, right? So they'll go and do some connections and, eventually that space launch will happen, right? So that is, this facility was done by IEEE Kerala section, and students keep come and seeing this, right? So coming back to the proposal, there is nothing special in this other than that we have done the work, right? You can't really write your way into getting a proposal, right? So who's the project coordinator, who's the advisor, there's nothing fancy here, right? Support letter, right? So this is important, right? Who all are going to, what is the funding required? $16,000 for that, $19,000 for this one. Rotary Club will pay something, right? I think the proposal is over. So there's nothing in this document special. It's that people did the work before asking for money, right?
Yeah.
There is a
I mean,
proposal saying
that
like,
is
if you
all.
pay us, we'll do this.
Yeah.
If you are a really humanitarian volunteer, you're not looking at somebody to pay you before doing the work. If you're a
Yes.
humanitarian volunteer, you are doing the work, somebody else is willing to help, great. Right? You have to reverse that thinking.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, it's not. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time as well as very informative presentation on IEEE site project. So thank you very much. So thank you, participants.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you very much, sir.